Tonight I would speak to you of something so simple and yet so misunderstood that if fully grasped, it would transform your entire world. You have been told, and I'm quite sure you believe it, that with God all things are possible. That statement I think no one here would deny. But I ask you now, do you believe that all things are possible to you? Not to a God somewhere beyond the skies, not to something outside of yourself, but to you. For if God and man are separate, then that statement is of little comfort. But I tell you, they are not two. There is only one. And that one being is your own wonderful human imagination. We have been trained from childhood to look outward for cause. We look to conditions, to people, to events, and we say this is why it happened. And we never stop to ask ourselves, what is the cause behind the condition? What is the cause behind the event? Scripture tells us, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But do we know what it means to think in the heart? It is not a passing thought. It is not something that comes and goes. It is the inner conversation that we carry on within ourselves. The secret dialogue that no one hears. I tell you, your inner talking is the cause of the world you live in. You may not know it. You may not believe it. But I tell you from experience, it is true. Man is constantly talking to himself. He cannot stop it. All he can do is control the nature and the direction of that inner speech. And the world you see is only the outpicturing of that inner activity. So when you imagine something new, when you dare to assume something greater than what is now before you, and then you open your eyes and the world denies it, you are disturbed. You say it is not working. You say, I imagined it, and yet nothing has changed. But I tell you, the world is not denying you. It is only bearing witness to what you have been. You are meeting your former self. What you see now is the delayed expression of what you once accepted as true. It is the harvest of yesterday's thinking, yesterday's feeling, yesterday's inner conversations. So when you assume a new state, you must not expect the world to instantly conform to it. No more than you would plant a seed today and expect to eat the fruit tomorrow. Yet this is exactly what man does. He assumes for a moment, and because he does not see immediate evidence, he abandons the assumption and returns to the old state. And then he wonders why nothing changes. I tell you, the world cannot show you what you are now being until it has finished showing you what you have been. So do not be disturbed by appearances. Do not be shaken by facts. The facts are only the shadows of your former assumptions. You say, but it looks so real. Yes, it is real. But it is real as an effect, not as a cause. The cause is within you. Now, what is it that you are called upon to do? You are called upon to assume a state, and to remain faithful to that state, even when the world denies it. This is what I mean by holding the state. You do not hold a thought. Thoughts come and go. You do not hold a wish. Wishes are fleeting. You hold a state. A state is a condition of being. It is the sum total of what you believe yourself to be. You are always in a state. You cannot be without one, but you can change it. And when you change your state, you change your world. You do not act from thoughts. You act from states. You do not see the world as it is. You see it as you are. If you feel yourself to be unwanted, you will interpret everything in the light of that feeling. If you feel yourself to be secure, to be chosen, to be successful, the same world will reflect that back to you. So the question is not, what is the world doing? The question is, what state am I occupying now? You may say to me, how can I hold a state when everything around me tells me it is not true? And I tell you that is precisely when you must hold it. For if it were already visible, there'll be nothing to hold. It is because it is unseen that you are called upon to remain faithful to it. What would it feel like right now were it true? Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Do not concern yourself with how it will come to pass. That is not your concern. Leave that to the law. Your only task is to assume that you are now what you desire to be, and to remain in that assumption. You will find that when you assume it, something within you shifts. It may be slight, it may be subtle, but it is real. And that shift is the movement into a new state. But then the world remains as it was. The facts do not change immediately. And you are tempted to say it was only imagination. But I tell you, imagination is the only reality. The world you trust is only the shadow of it. So you must learn to remain in the state, not by force, not by struggle, but by returning again and again to that inner knowing. For you do not fall from the state because the world denies you. You fall from the state only when you accept the denial. And the moment you accept the denial, you return to the former state, and the world continues to reflect it. But if you remain faithful, if you persist in the assumption, if you dare to continue as though it were true, then something must happen. It cannot fail to happen. For the world is compelled to mirror the state you occupy. You are not trying to change the world. You are changing yourself, and the world, being yourself pushed out, has no choice but to follow. So I tell you, do not be disturbed by what you see. Do not be shaken by what you hear. These are only the shadows of what has been. What matters is what you are now being. For what you are now being, though unseen, will in time be seen. If you take what has been said seriously, you will see that everything depends upon one thing, and that one thing is the state you occupy. Now let us go a little deeper into this mystery, for it is truly a mystery until it is experienced. We speak of God, and we speak of the Word of God. But what do we mean by the Word? We have been taught to believe that the Word is something spoken outwardly, something that falls upon the ear, something that can be heard by another. But that is not the word of which Scripture speaks. The word is the activity of God within you. And if God is within you, and I tell you that He is, then that word is your own inner speech, your own inner conversation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If the Word was God, and God is your own wonderful human imagination, then your inner talking is God in action. I know that sounds strange to one who has been trained to believe in a God outside of himself. But I ask you to test it. Observe your inner speech. Do you not find that you are constantly talking to yourself? You carry on arguments. You rehearse conversations. You anticipate what another will say, and you answer them in advance. You praise yourself. You condemn yourself. You justify yourself, all within the privacy of your own mind. And I tell you that inner speech is not idle. It is not meaningless. It is creative. Every inner conversation is a seed. It is clothed in reality, and it will objectify itself in your world. Scripture tells us, every idle word that man shall speak, he shall give account thereof. And by your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. Now it is not the word you speak outwardly that are meant, but the word you speak inwardly, the conversations you carry on within yourself. For speech is the image of mind. To change your world, you must first change your inner speech. You may say to me, but I think many things during the day. Which one creates? And I tell you, not every passing thought is creative. But the thought that is accepted, the thought that is felt, the thought that is dwelt upon, that is the one that bears fruit. It is not what you casually think that shapes your world, but what you inwardly agree with, what you consent to be true. If you dwell upon something, if you return to it, if you feel it to be real, then you are planting a seed. And that seed must grow. The world is a mirror. It does not show you what you want to see. It shows you what you are. And what you are is revealed by the inner conversations you habitually carry on. You may not be aware of them, and yet they are going on. They have become so natural, so automatic, that you do not question them. But they are the tracks along which your life moves. If you would change the direction of your life, you must change those tracks. You must put off the former conversation, the old man, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Now, what is renewal? It is not a struggle. It is not an effort to fight your thoughts. It is a change in what you accept as true. You begin to carry on a different inner conversation. Instead of hearing within yourself what you fear, you begin to hear what you desire. Instead of arguing for your limitations, you begin to agree with your possibility. You do not deny what is before you. You simply refuse to give it final authority. You say, this is what was. This is not what is. For what is what you are now assuming. Now let me show you how this works in a very simple way. Suppose you desire recognition in your work. You feel that you are overlooked, unappreciated, perhaps even criticized. And all day long you carry on an inner conversation with those around you. You argue with them mentally, you justify yourself, you resent their attitude, and then you wonder why they continue to treat you in that manner. I tell you, they're only echoing what you have whispered to them in secret. They are reflecting your inner speech.
But if you change that inner conversation, if you imagine that they praise you, that they recognize your ability, that they speak well of you, and you persist in that assumption, something will happen. They will change. Not because they have changed of themselves, but because you have changed the conversation within yourself. I have seen this happen time and again. A person will come to me and complain of another, and I will say to them, change your inner talking about that person. And they will do it. And in a short while they will come back and tell me that the entire relationship has changed. Now do not think for one moment that you have changed the other. There is no other. You have changed yourself. And the world, being yourself pushed out, has conformed to your change. So I say to you, watch your inner conversations, for they are the causes of the phenomena of your life. You are always speaking, always declaring what is true of yourself, even if you are not aware of it. And that which you declare, that which you accept, that which you feel to be real, that you will meet in your world. So if you would hold the state, you must watch the conversations that support that state. You cannot assume that you are successful and then inwardly complain of failure. You cannot assume that you are loved and then inwardly rehearse rejection. The inner speech must agree with the state. Can two walk together except they be agreed? The two that must agree are your inner conversation and your desired state. If they are in agreement, the thing must come to pass. If they are not, you will fall back into the former state, and the world will continue to reflect it. So begin now to listen to yourself, not to your spoken words, but to your inner words. And when you catch yourself carrying on a conversation that does not imply the fulfillment of your desire, stop it. Do not fight it. Do not condemn yourself for it. Simply replace it. Turn it. Give it a new direction. Hear what you would hear were your desire already fulfilled. And as you do this, gently, persistently, without strain, you will find that the state begins to feel more natural to you. And when it feels natural, it is yours. For the state that feels natural is the state that is accepted. And the state that is accepted is the state that is expressed. So I tell you, change your inner speech and you will change your world. For your inner speech is the word of God in action. And that word does not return unto you void, but accomplishes that which it is sent to do. Now let us go further. For it is not enough to know that your inner speech creates your world. You must know how to use it deliberately, how to direct it toward the end that you desire. For many hear this truth, and they agree with it, and yet they do not apply it. And without application, it remains only theory. You are called upon to live in the end. Now, what do I mean by that? I do not mean that you wait for the end. I do not mean that you look forward to it. I mean that you begin there. You take your desire, whatever it may be, and you ask yourself one simple question. What would it feel like if
it were true now. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now. How would you feel? How would you see the world? How would you see yourself? For you see, feeling is the secret. It is not enough to think of the thing. You must feel yourself into it. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Now, do not misunderstand me. When I say feeling, I do not mean emotion in the sense of excitement or thrill. I mean the quiet, natural knowing that it is so. The feeling that something is already yours. You have experienced this in your life. There are things that you know are yours, and you do not question them. You do not hope for them. You do not wonder if they will come. You simply know. That is the feeling you must capture. So you ask yourself, what would I be feeling now were this desire already a fact? And then for a moment, you dare to assume that feeling. You do not concern yourself with how it will come to pass. You do not ask what steps must be taken. You simply enter into the state. Now, how do you enter? You enter by imagining, but not imagining as a spectator. You are not looking at something happening out there. You are participating in it. You are in it. If you desire to be congratulated, then hear the voice of a friend congratulating you. If you desire to be successful, then see yourself as others would see you, were it true. Hear them say what they would say. Feel the reality of it. You may say to me, but I know it is not true. Yes, you know it is not true in the outer world. But I am not asking you to accept it as true outwardly. I am asking you to accept it as true inwardly. For the inner world is the cause, and the outer world is only the effect. So you enter into the scene, and you feel it to be real, and then you dwell in it.
Now, what is dwelling? It is not a momentary act. It is not something you do once and forget. It is something you return to. It is something you occupy. You fall asleep in it. You carry it with you. You make it your home. You do not visit the state. You live there. And as you live there, it begins to feel natural. At first it may feel strange. It may feel foreign. But if you persist, if you return to it again and again, it will begin to feel like yourself. And when it feels like yourself, you have entered the state. Now, here is the test. You have imagined. You have felt it real. You have entered the state. And then you turn to the world, and nothing has changed. Perhaps something even appears to contradict it more strongly. And you are tempted to say, it is not working. But I tell you, that is the moment when you must remain faithful. For you are not called upon to believe the evidence of your senses. You are called upon to believe in the reality of your imagination. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. If you had the evidence, you would not need faith. So you remain, you return to the state. You continue to hear what you would hear, to see what you would see, to feel what you would feel were it true. And you do it without strain, without forcing, without anxiety, for anxiety belongs to the state of not having. And you are no longer in that state. You are in the state of having. So you think from it, you feel from it, you react from it. If something in the world appears to contradict your assumption, you do not accept it. You do not fight it. You simply do not give it your consent. You remain loyal to the unseen. For you fall from the state only when you accept another as true.
The moment you accept the contradiction, you leave the state and you return to the former one. But if you remain, if you persist, if you continue to occupy the state, then something must happen. It cannot fail. For the world is compelled to mirror the state you occupy. You are not creating something new. You are selecting a state, and that state contains within it all that is necessary for its expression. So I say to you, live in the end. Do not concern yourself with beginnings. Do not concern yourself with means. Begin with the end and remain there. And if you remain there, though the world deny you, though reason oppose you, though your senses contradict you, it will become fact. It must, for imagining creates reality. Now, having entered the state and having felt it real, you will find yourself confronted with what seems to the senses the very opposite of what you have assumed. And this, I tell you, is the moment that tests the individual. For man imagines, and for a brief moment he feels it to be true, and then he turns to the evidence of his senses. And because the world has not yet reshaped itself to mirror that assumption, he begins to doubt. And in doubting, he returns to the former state, not knowing that he has just undone what he had begun. But I tell you, the world does not change first. It cannot. For the world is only the outpicturing of what has already been accepted within you. And therefore what you see now has nothing to do with what you are now assuming yourself to be, but is only the delayed expression of what you formerly were. You are meeting your former self, I tell you. Meeting it day after day, and because you do not recognize it as yourself, you think it comes from without. And so you fight appearances, or you fear them, or you accept them as final, and in so doing you perpetuate them. But if you understood that what now confronts you is only the shadow of what you once accepted as true, you would not be disturbed by it. You would not be shaken. You would not call it failure. You would say within yourself, this is what was. This is not what is. And you would remain faithful, not to what you see, but to what you have assumed. For we are told, walk by faith, not by sight. And this is not a phrase to admire. It is a law to be applied. If you walk by sight, you must return to what has already been objectified. For sight can show you nothing but the past made visible. But if you walk by faith, you remain in the unseen state, though the world denies it. And in that remaining, in that quiet persistence, something begins to move. Now you may not see it, and you may not understand it, and you are not called upon to understand it, but it is moving. For every state contains within itself all that is necessary for its expression. And once you enter that state and accept it as real, the whole vast world reshapes itself to make it so. You do not make it happen. You could not if you tried.
You do not devise the way. You do not plan the steps. You do not bring it to pass by effort or by will. You simply assume. And in assuming, you set in motion a series of events which, though to the world they seem accidental or coincidental or even unfortunate, are in truth the necessary bridge between what you were and what you are now being. And this series of events, I tell you, this unfolding, is what I call the bridge of incidents. You will cross it. You cannot avoid it. And as you cross it, things will happen that you do not understand. Things that may seem to oppose you.
things that may even appear to contradict entirely what you have assumed. A door may close, an opportunity may vanish, a man may reject you, you may even lose that which you now possess. And if you judge these things by appearances, you will say this is failure. But I tell you, it is not failure. It is movement. It is the rearrangement of the world to conform to your new state. And because change must take place, there must be movement. And because there is movement, there will be appearances that seem for a moment to oppose you. But they do not oppose you. They serve you. If only you will remain faithful. For the moment you accept the appearance as final, the moment you say this is so and believe it, you have returned to the former state. And the world, being yourself pushed out, must continue to reflect that former state. You cannot serve two states. No man can serve two masters. You cannot say, I am successful, and at the same time accept that you are not. You cannot say, I am loved, and at the same time inwardly rehearse rejection. You must choose, and having chosen, you must remain. Now let me show you how subtle this is. A man assumes that he is successful, that he is the man he would like to be, and he feels it real. And then something happens in this world that seems to deny it. Perhaps the deal falls through. Perhaps something is taken from him. And immediately he reacts. He becomes disturbed. He questions. He doubts. And in that reaction, he has abandoned the state. He has accepted the appearance. But had he remained, had he said within himself, this has nothing to do with what I am now being, and continued in the assumption, he would in time have seen that that very event which he called failure was the necessary step toward its fulfillment. For the bridge of incidents is not always pleasant to the senses, but it is perfect. It is perfect, I tell you, though you do not see its perfection in the moment. So do not judge, do not label, do not call anything good or bad. Simply remain in the state. For the world is not the cause, it is the effect. And if you change the cause, the effect must follow. You are not on the outside trying to manipulate conditions. You are on the inside selecting a state. And that state, once accepted, once felt to be real, must objectify itself. It has no choice. For imagining creates reality. And what you now see is only the shadow of what has been imagined. So when the shadow contradicts you, do not fight the shadow. Do not argue with it. Turn from it. Turn within and remain faithful to the light that cast it. For that light is within you. And that light is your own wonderful human imagination. Now, if what has been said is true, and I tell you it is true, then everything depends upon your willingness to apply it. For it will not work itself. You are the operant power. You are the one who must assume, and having assumed, remain faithful to that assumption. No one can do it for you. You may hear it, you may agree with it, you may even feel it to be right, but unless you actually take it upon yourself to test it, to live it, to apply it, it will remain only words, and words without application are empty. So I ask you, what do you want? Not what do others expect of you, not what seems reasonable, not what appears possible, but what do you want? For unless you know what you want, you cannot assume that you have it. You must define it. You must give it form. You must bring it to a point where you can say within yourself, this is what I would be were it true. And having defined it, you do not look for it. You do not wait for it. You assume that you are it. Now. Not tomorrow, now. You say, but how can I say that I am it when the world tells me I am not? And I tell you, the world has nothing to do with it. The world is only showing you what you have been. It does not know what you are now being. Only you know that. So you dare to assume that you are now what you would like to be, and you feel it. You feel the naturalness of it. You feel the relief of it. You feel the quiet knowing that it is so. And then you remain there. You do not struggle. You do not strain. You do not try to make it happen. You remain.
For the assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. That is not a theory, that is a law. Now, as you go about your day, things will happen. People will say things, events will unfold, and some of them may appear to contradict what you have assumed. But I tell you, do not be moved. Do not be disturbed. Do not accept them as final. Return quietly, gently, without effort, to the state you have assumed. For you fall from the state only when you accept another as true. And the world will tempt you. It will tempt you to react. It will tempt you to doubt. It will tempt you to return to the old man, to the former conversation, to the familiar way of seeing things. But you must not yield. You must remain faithful. You must say within yourself, I know what I am, and I will not be persuaded otherwise. Not in defiance, not in struggle, but in quiet certainty. For the man who knows does not argue. He does not fight. He simply remains, and in remaining he becomes. Now extend this beyond yourself. Do not limit it to your own world. Take another. Take one whom you would help. You need not ask his permission. You need not tell him what you are doing. Simply see him as he ought to be seen. Hear him as he ought to be heard. Feel that he is now what you would have him be, and remain faithful to that vision. For there is no other. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out, and what you do for another, you do for yourself. If you lift another, you lift yourself. If you condemn another, you condemn yourself. So use your imagination lovingly. Always lovingly, for it is the one creative power in the universe. Though I do not ask you to believe me. Belief without experience is fragile. I ask you to test it. Test it this very night. Do not wait. Do not postpone it. Take something simple, something definite, something that you can clearly imagine, and ask yourself, what would it feel like if it were true? And then feel it, enter into it, dwell in it, fall asleep in it, and do not concern yourself with what will happen tomorrow. Let tomorrow take care of itself. For the vision has its own appointed hour. It ripens, it will flower. If it be long, then wait, for it is sure, and it will not be late. Remain faithful, that is all. Remain faithful to the unseen reality. For what you are now being, though unseen, will in time be seen. It cannot fail. I tell you, it cannot fail. For imagining creates reality. And there is no power in this world that can prevent the expression of the state you persist in. So choose wisely, assume boldly, and remain faithful, and you will know from your own experience that what I tell you is true.